What's going on, everyone? Hope you're all having a great day. Qui Gon was a very powerful Jedi Master and one of my personal favorite Star Wars characters. But why wasn't Qui Gon allowed on the Jedi Council? Let's dive into it. Qui Gon was trained by Count Dooku, who was one of the best lightsaber duelists in the entire galaxy, and Qui Gon probably had the biggest impact on the entire Star Wars universe. Qui Gon was an unorthodox Jedi, where he was known for his maverick nature and would even go against the Council's wishes, as he wanted Anakin to be trained because he sensed the Force around this boy and he thought Anakin was the chosen one who would bring balance to the Force, which, in the end, Qui Gon was right. As we saw in The Phantom Menace, Qui Gon was his own man, as he followed the will of the Force rather than what the Senate told him to do, where the Jedi, especially the Jedi High Council, were just pawns of the Senate and did their bidding. The Jedi lost their way and became way too involved with politics, which helped lead to their eventual demise. In canon, Qui-Gon was actually offered a seat on the Council, but declined due to a few reasons. The first was that being a member of the Council, it would take up a lot of his time, as he would not be able to train Obi-Wan or go on a lot of missions with his Padawan anymore, which made Qui-Gon a bit sad as he'd grown very fond of Obi-Wan over the many years they spent together. The next reason is probably the biggest reason why Qui-Gon decided to decline a seat on the Jedi Council, and that is that Qui-Gon noticed how the Jedi had changed over the years. Qui-Gon realized that the Jedi were way too involved with politics, as the Senate would now control the Jedi's every move, where the Jedi were now putting the will of the people over the will of the Force itself. Qui-Gon let the Force guide his actions, rather than just some vote. Qui-Gon was much like his master, Count Dooku, where they both had a lot of disagreements with the Jedi Council and how they handled things overall. When Qui-Gon first met Anakin, he thought it was a sign from the Force that this boy must be trained. We even saw Qui-Gon use the Force on the chance dice, where he bet against Watto to bet on Anakin's freedom rather than his mother's. This is something I don't think any other Jedi, including Obi-Wan, would have done, as Qui-Gon essentially cheated as the dice was rigged to land on Anakin's mother, Shmi. Qui-Gon made it so it would land on Anakin instead. In Legends, the Jedi Council didn't want Qui-Gon as a member, and never even offered him a seat on the High Council. They viewed Qui-Gon as kind of a roguelike Jedi, and thought Qui-Gon would prioritize what he thought was right, rather than just following the orders of the Council. The Jedi wanted to see over time if Qui-Gon would prove worthy of having a seat on the Council, and would become more adherent to their ways. However, Qui-Gon didn't follow the Council's wishes, and even became more rebellious towards them, where, in the end, Qui-Gon was never offered a seat on the Jedi Council. Qui-Gon was one of the most interesting Jedi, as he followed the will of the Force rather than just following the orders of the Senate. I think that things would have turned out completely different for the galaxy if Qui-Gon ended up training Anakin instead of Obi-Wan, as I think Qui-Gon would be the father figure Anakin needed rather than the brother figure he got in Obi-Wan. Plus, Qui-Gon was really the one who wanted to train Anakin, as after he died, Anakin was just kind of thrown onto Obi-Wan as the last wishes of Qui-Gon. But if you want to check out that video, I'll link it here at the end of this one. But overall, because Qui-Gon followed the will of the Force, rather than the Senate, he declined a seat on the Jedi Council to follow his own path. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.